In St. Louis, the Cardinal 49er game offered a classic heavyweight punch-out, the irresistible force meeting the immovable object. Although Don Coryell's Cardinals possess a suspect defense, there is nothing suspicious about their offense, a unit laden with all pros. The problem for Coryell was a 49er defense led by number 86 Cedric Hardman that had not allowed a touchdown for 12 consecutive quarters. Facing a 49er rush line that sacked quarterbacks a league-high 37 times was the biggest, possibly the best, and certainly the meanest offensive line in pro football. You need a team of wolfmen to stop this front four. There is young tackle Jimmy Webb. The bookend veterans at the flanks, Tommy Hard and Cedric Hardman, and finally rookie tackle Cleveland Elam, number 72. This season, the St. Louis line vowed that their quarterback would never have to have his uniform laundered, and they have almost lived up to that boast since Jim Hart has been sacked but 5 times in 7 games. Many claim that the Cardinals hold on every play, a penalty that this season the referees have had no trouble calling. For Monty Clark, victory meant retention of first place in the NFC West. Victory hinged on Jim Plunkett's leadership as San Francisco met St. Louis in the NFL Game of the Week. Although both teams have been co-members of the National Football League since 1950, they have only met 7 times, with St. Louis winning 4 of the games. But it was not the 49ers' unfamiliarity with the Cardinals, but seemingly the sport itself that got the game off to a rousing start. Rookie return specialists Paul Hofer and Anthony Leonard would have been wiser to fair catch the opening kickoff and let it go completely unattended. This incredible blunder resulted in a Cardinal recovery by Jerry Latin, number 32. And since you can't advance a kickoff, it was 1st and goal for St. Louis at the 8-yard line. The 49er defense leads the NFL in both scoring and yardage allowed, but it would prove a stern test indeed to stem the adrenaline that had pumped into the Cardinals after such early good fortune. San Francisco proved invulnerable to the run, but not to the pass, as a 3rd down screamer by Jim Hart connected with tight end J.V. Kane for a touchdown. Good teams convert good luck into points, and another look reveals how lucky Jim Hart was. A power rush by Cedric Hardman, number 86, almost handed Hart his head. But instead of a sack, Hardman sucked only air as Hart drilled Kane in the numbers. St. Louis led 7-0 and set about to contain a 49er offense that is decidedly second fiddle to its defense. Under Jim Plunkett, the attack seems to bog down and die from self-inflicted wounds. In the first period, the hurts were real, not imaginary, as the stunning, looping, Big Red defense converged at the point of attack. The big question mark has been Jim Plunkett, who some say is still shell-shocked from his years with the New England Patriots. Plunkett's touch completely deserted him in a first period that saw him complete 1 pass for 8 yards. His failure to solve the St. Louis defense, a mystery that hasn't puzzled many opponents, only firmed up the resolve of the 49er defense. After the initial score by the Cardinals, San Francisco owned the scrimmage line. Although outweighed 10 to 20 pounds a man, their quickness, anticipation, and coordinated penetration collapsed Cardinal blocking patterns. With St. Louis running backs completely cut off from the offense, the focus of their attack shifted to short timing pass patterns that did not require the offensive line to hold out Hardman and company for extended periods. This strategy paid only one dividend, a 29-yard catch and carry by Mel Gray, number 85. A second look at the play illustrates the potential of the Cardinals' big play attack. With practically no blocking, the tiny sprinter came within a stride of burning a hole through the middle of the 49er defense. The secret of containing St. Louis rests on the ability of defenses to shut off the home run to Gray and deny the open field to gifted Terry Metcalf, number 21. Only once did Metcalf escape the clutches of this tenacious defense, and on that occasion the play was blunted by a holding penalty. With Gray stymied and Metcalf held to 35 yards in total offense, the irresistible force was blitzed by the immovable object. Given so many opportunities by his defense, Jim Plunkett began to probe weaknesses and extract valuable yardage against St. Louis. Number 40, Wilbur Jackson, exposed the vulnerability of a depleted Cardinal linebacking core, but his 9-yard touchdown explosion was wiped out by a penalty. The 49ers are a resilient team, and they bounced back when Del Williams crashed in for a score to cap an 80-yard San Francisco drive. After wheezing and gasping for points, Williams' touchdown breathed fresh life into an offense which for most of the first half had appeared almost comatose. Most teams use crucifixes and wolfbane to ward off Conrad Dobler and Tom Banks, the Bela Lugosi and Lon Chaney of the Big Red Line. But other than an occasional bust-out play, there was no bite in the Cardinal attack. The reason for this ineffectiveness in San Francisco's renaissance in 1976 lies in the middle of their defensive line, where rookie tackle Cleveland Elam, number 72, plays beyond his years, and second-year tackle Jimmy Webb, number 74, beefs up the pass rush. In the second period, both Elam and Webb put the clamps on the Cardinal offense. The only mistake surrendered by St. Louis in the first 30 minutes was an interception by Mel Phillips, number 32. The Cardinals paid dearly for it, as the theft by the 49ers safety led directly to a picture book touchdown by Del Williams that gave the 49ers a 13-7 lead. Williams gained over 100 yards in the first half, and a repeat of the score reveals the speed and moves of number 24. Last year, Williams' yards per carry were second only to O.J. Simpson, and this season he seems to be stepping out of the shadows into superstardom. After 30 minutes, the game rested in the hands of the 49ers as St. Louis seemed locked in the grip of their third defeat of the season. The second half began almost as the first had, as Steve Mickemeier's kickoff seemed certain to bounce out of bounds, and when it hooked back in, Terry Metcalf nearly mishandled it. For Metcalf, it was a continuation of a thus far frustrating day. Held to just 25 yards rushing in the first half, he would get just 3 more in the second. The 49er defense was proving to be no fluke, keeping in check one of the league's most explosive offenses, while when they had the ball, San Francisco continued to spring its Metcalf type, Del Williams. Williams' fumble was recovered by a teammate, giving him another chance to punch through the Cardinal defense. Following a great block by running mate Wilbur Jackson, number 40, Williams carried the 49ers into St. Louis territory. Williams tacked 34 yards onto his 108 first-half rushing yards on a drive that set up a Mickemeyer field goal attempt. But his 40-yard try that would have offset an earlier missed extra point and given San Francisco a 9-point lead was wide. The 49er lead stayed at 6 points. Against a Cardinal offense that can get a touchdown almost at will, it was anything but a safe lead. St. Louis, in fact, came right out and moved to that score. Jim Oda's fumble was recovered by Cardinal tight end J.V. Kane. As we shall see later, a Jim Otis fumble is rare indeed. And even this one hadn't hurt the Cardinals, who now began to exploit the 49er flanks with swing passes to their backs. After Steve Jones carried a hard dart inside the 30, Terry Metcalf finally got free, beating Skip Vanderbunt for a catch and the 49ers secondary for a touchdown. Swing passes proved to be the key to the drive, and on a repeat we can see that number 64, Bob Young, and his line mates were getting Hart the time he needed to wait for his other receivers to clear an area and get a running back isolated on a linebacker. For the Cardinals, the touchdown meant a 14-13 lead, and for Metcalf, a chance to let out the frustrations. The Cardinals had found a way to beat the San Francisco defense, letting their running backs go man-on-man against Vanderbunt, Dave Washington, and number 57, Frank Fudgehammer Nunley. But soon after Metcalf's score, strategy went out the window as the two Jims, Hart and Plunkett, played long ball. First, a 43-yard Plunkett to Jim Lash connection set up a 1-yard Williams plunge as San Francisco reclaimed the lead. With another look, we can see what a fine catch Lash made, reaching up to snatch the ball at the last instant. If he hadn't caught the ball, it would have hit him right between the eyes. San Francisco had a sudden 20-14 lead, but just as suddenly, on the next play from scrimmage, in fact, St. Louis came back. Mel Gray's 77-yard sprint that tied the game at 20 had the fans on their feet. But upfield, a very calm Jim Hart looked like it was just another Sunday stroll. Perhaps bombs away to Gray are getting kind of ho-hum to Hart. Or was it that he knew there was nothing to cheer about yet, for extra points are no longer automatic? If that was what he was thinking, he was right, for San Francisco returned Jim Bakken's kick back to him. So by virtue of both teams failing on a point after the score was tied, with San Francisco having the next chance to change one of those 20s. There were no bombs to be had at this late date in the game, so Plunkett stayed on the ground and Del Williams was still hot. The 49ers were well within field goal range, but then almost had a fatal turnover when Plunkett bobbled the center snap. San Francisco was fortunate to keep the ball, but the drive was over on the St. Louis 6, and a very uncertain kicking game came onto the field. Del Williams, with 188 yards rushing, had carried the 49ers as far as he could, and the pressure now rested with Steve Mickemeyer, who had a 23-yarder to give San Francisco the lead with 2 minutes to go in the game. But Mickemeyer missed, and the 49ers had failed to deliver the knockout punch. Though both teams had one more possession in regulation time, neither could score, and the game went into overtime with the two teams tied at 20. The 49ers lost the all-important coin toss, and the Cardinals would get first crack in the sudden death period. On the Cardinals sideline, St. Louis decided it would do nothing fancy. The strategy was to be as basic as a punch in the nose. Give the ball to Jim Otis, he of the no fumbles, and blast away from tackle to tackle. As Otis prepared to literally carry the Cardinals the rest of the way, the strategy took on extra significance. For on the opening kickoff of sudden death, Wayne Morris misplayed the ball, and the Cardinals would start from their own 7-yard line. Certainly no place to turn the ball over. The Cardinals stuck doggedly to their selected strategy, and Jim Otis began his long, hard journey. After Otis carried 4 times and got the Cardinals some room, Hart tried his last pass of the day, and the only play in sudden death that Jim Otis did not carry the ball. Jim Hart wishes he had. The strength of the 49ers, their front 4, had made the big play. Not so much in stopping the Cardinals, but in the fact that the Hart attack cost St. Louis 11 yards. So that when Terry Joyce came in to punt, he was doing so from his own end zone, and good 49er field position was virtually assured. Anthony Leonard returned the punt to the 49er 45, but on the play, the Cardinals got the game-breaking break when Steve Jones recovered his fumble. Monty Clark could only hope that the splendid San Francisco defense could do it again. By now, they were aware of the Cardinal plan to run Otis, Otis, and more Otis, and they forced St. Louis into a third and absolutely necessary 1 yard at the 49er 34. Sure enough, Jim Otis got the call, and though everyone in Busch Stadium knew who would carry the ball, Jim Otis ran for 23 yards. Otis had now carried 7 times in the overtime for 47 yards, and number 35 just kept right on coming. Getting a pat on the back even before he arose, Jim Otis still had enough left to help a teammate off the ground. So why not let him carry a couple more times? The result was that Jim Otis carried on 10 of 11 St. Louis snaps and literally carried the Cardinals on his back to the San Francisco 4-yard line. By now, he was exhausted, and it was time to receive a helping hand. It was fitting that center Tom Banks should offer it, for those unpublicized men in the pits appreciated most when a running back makes the most of their sacrifices in the interior line. When a Jim Otis has the kind of day he had, it makes all the grunts, groans, bangs, and bruises with little acclaim worth the effort. 6 minutes, 42 seconds into overtime, a game that had lived up to its advanced billing came down to a 21-yard field goal try by Jim Bakken. As he had done so many, many times, Jim Bakken made the kick that won the game, this time 23-20 over the San Francisco 49ers. The win brought the Cardinals' record to 6-2, 1 game behind Dallas in the highly competitive NFC East Division. In the St. Louis locker room, there was no raucous celebration, for there's a tough schedule still to be completed. There was instead a shared moment of a job well done, an appreciation of each other's talents. 49er head coach Monty Clark perhaps put it most succinctly. Aside from a couple mistakes, I thought we outplayed them, he said, but they are a championship-type team.